storylines too. Can you talk about that and how it reached this global audience? I think you talk about some characters that were in the NWO that were, I think they're Japanese or
Yeah.
somewhere else. So talk about how they were able to push that line as well.
So I mentioned that I bought that nWo hoodie, right? When I started working on the
Yep.
book. So I wore it also to Japan when I
Okay.
went to Japan a few years ago. And I was waiting in line at like a breakfast restaurant in Tokyo. And I get to the front of the line, and the host, Japanese man, probably in his 50s or so, recognized the nWo logo from the 90s. And we started like he didn't speak English and I don't speak any Japanese, but we started talking in like the language of wrestling, and we were just kind of like saying names of like the guys that we remember from that time, and we would go like, ah, yeah, yeah, and it was like so cool, man. Like it was so awesome, like that wrestling could bring together two different cultures. That's actually one of the things that I love about wrestling, is just that there is like a diversity to the fan base. And you can go to wrestling shows, you go to WrestleMania and you're seeing people who look different, and they're different, and they're all there for the same reason, and there's like a camaraderie and a community behind it. But you see Latinos, and you see black folks, and you see white folks, and you see Asian folks, and it's just like a melting pot of things. And I love that about wrestling, because there's not a lot of things that you can say that about that can bring people together. And I really do feel that wrestling is one of those things, because we're all nerds, right? Like it doesn't matter what culture you come from, we're all nerds, and we like wrestling, and that's gonna make us friends with each other because of that shared nerddom, so to speak. But to go back to NWO Japan, it got so big in Japan, and it was kind of it was during a wave of time where American culture, I guess in general, was very cool in Japan. And I guess there is still an element of that, now. But like, wearing like Levi's jeans and an NWO shirt was like streetwear in Tokyo, like in the 90s. It became like really cool. Like people that did not know anything about the NWO, what it was, even what wrestling was in Japan and Tokyo, they would buy NWO shirts because it was like supreme. It
Yep.
was like fear of God. It was like, it was like cool. It was streetwear. And I have a few great anecdotes in the book about how like uh there would be a big show in Japan, wrestling show, because New Japan Pro Wrestling was like WCW's partner in Japan. They worked together, and they would do a show with NWO Japan. They'd bring over some guys from the NWO in the States, and they do a show. And outside the venue, they would be selling NWO shirts, and they would sell out like that. Someone would come and buy probably all of them, and then sell it somewhere else down the street, right?
Yep.
So one guy from WCW was like, "Look, you got to put the vendors inside the venue. So at least they have to buy a ticket if they're not going to go to the show. At least they got to buy a ticket to get to
Oh
the
yeah.
merchandise stand." So they did that, and what happened was people bought a ticket, went to the merchandise stand, and then just left. Didn't even go to the show. They just went to the NWO shirt, and it was just like so. It was just so wild. That shirt became, and that logo became like a life of its own. Like I was told by the merchandise person at WCW from the 90s that in the States in like 98, you could not just get a plain black t-shirt. They were all bought by WCW and the WWF for
Wow.
Austin 316 shirts and the NWO shirt. You could not find just a regular black shirt. I'm just wearing a regular black t-shirt now. You couldn't get one. It
Dang.
was monopolized by the wrestling promotions because they were printing like massive amounts of NWO and Austin 316 shirts.
Yeah, I want to get into your writing. I do have one more question, just kind of more on the
Yeah,
wrestling side. But
of
to
course,
your
of course.
point, I think that wrestling does bring cultures together, and I think
Hmm.
that's what you kind of see throughout time. Is like whether it's NWO, and then you kind of talk. We talked about hip hop. We talked about all these things that wrestling does bring that conversation in, and it becomes this who we get behind, like you talk about the heel is kind of like the bad guys, and then the
Hmm.
baby face are the good guys. We get behind either one of them. We never know which moment is going to make us be a fan of either or. Like I
Hmm.
remember growing up and my favorite group was DX, like D Generation X,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they
of
were the
course.
bad guys, right? And they were the people that you would otherwise not like. They're messing up the show, they're taking things down. They were the cool kids, and I think sometimes
Hmm.
you see that. Or in your book you did a really good job of showing the side of Sting, and showing how Sting was anti cool guy, and he was more of like
Hmm.
almost I don't want to say a Kurt Cobain kind of style, but he was in
Yeah.
that ballpark of those, or like I said, what's his name, Manson, like
Mhm.
those type of characters that they were the outcasts, but they were cool because they were anti-cool. You know what I mean? Like that was
Right.
kind of their style, right? If you enjoyed that clip, make sure you head over to www.bookupapp.com to download our app so you can connect with your favorite bookish content creators, start conversations, and start your own book club.